Here at Titan Medical Center, we provide first-class patient care. And we also do bioidentical hormone replacement therapy for males and females.
We also offer medical weight loss, vitamin and amino acid injectable therapies, and rejuvenation detox.
Along with those libido enhancers, you know you want to pleasure your partner, right? So if you want to feel better, look better, and perform better,
call us at 727-389-3220 to become part of the Titan Medical family.
The reason why this guy's the greatest bridge player of all time. Testosterone. Oh my God. Testosterone. Oh my God. Testosterone. It doesn't make sense. Testosterone. It doesn't make sense. Testosterone. Oh my God. Testosterone. Oh my God. Testosterone. It doesn't make sense. Testosterone. It doesn't make sense.
Gotta be a freak beats.
Testosterone. RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, brought to you by Species Nutrition, Cuts Fitness, and Liquid Sun Rays. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. This is your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions on diet, training, supplementation, IFBB pros, competitions, the New York Pro, just 3 days away. As we now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, you did an explosive one-on-one with Shawn Ray yesterday, who absolutely held nothing back, in particular about his feelings on Shawn Rhoden's recent guest posing.
Yeah, Shawn had some strong feelings about it. And, the funny thing is I got him on just because, he called me up and said, let's talk, you want to come on? I'm going to come on. We'll talk about the Olympia. I said, all right. So I just kind of threw it out there to him, and he was really, very, very strongly opinionated on the fact that he felt that Shawn should have, been more professional, and he should have looked a certain way, and if he didn't look that way, he shouldn't have gotten up there. And I just let him go. I love Shawn. Shawn I consider Shawn a friend, and obviously Chris Aceto, who's one of my closest friends probably in the world, trains Shawn. So Shawn's on my great list, but some of the points that Shawn Ray made, even though they were a little, aggressively caustic, were accurate, and so I allowed him to, go ahead and give his viewpoint. And I think people responded to it, whether favorably or unfavorably, they responded because the video got a lot of views, that's for sure. And, I want to just say something about the New York Pro.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be making it this year, unfortunately. I just got too much going on, it's like nonstop over here. But I know you will be there with Chris Aceto, doing all the coverage, and of course our great photographer Ralph Noble will be there. So we'll have full coverage all weekend long on RxMuscle.com.
And of course, Dave, June 29th, your next Secrets to Becoming a Diet Guru course.
Yeah, I just want to remind people that the class is starting to fill up pretty quickly. So June 29th here in Cape Coral, Florida, that's a Saturday. You go to DavePalumbo.com and you sign up for the Secrets to Becoming a Guru seminar. It's a 10-hour class. I go over everything from diet, supplementation, performance-enhancing drugs, how to write cycles, off-season, pre-contest, detoxification, site injection oils. I go over everything basically in there. I mean, I take you guys to lunch, and it's a small, intimate class. It's usually I try to keep it around 15 to 18 people. And everyone becomes friends there because you spend the whole day together, and there's some great questions asked, and a lot of information is transferred to you guys. And the great thing is I get people who are beginners coming to the class. I get people who are seasoned coaches coming there because they want to be better at their craft. They want to know the science behind what's going on. Jean-Pierre Fuchs has taken it twice already, and he's coming back a third time. So once again, you can never learn enough. I'm learning every day all the time, and I want to try to pass that information on to you guys because coaching in bodybuilding, there's a lot of money to be made. It's a great job because, bodybuilders love to talk shop. They love to do diets. They love to be able to advise people. And if you can make a great living doing it, who's better than you? I'm giving you 4 years of college education in one day. So once again, don't wait because the class fills up and then I have to stop it. You'll have to wait till the next one. So it's June 29th. Go to DavePalumbo.com, sign up.
Let's get to the questions. The first two questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. The first question, Dave, thanks for the female cycle recommendations you have in the app. What are the negative effects of Primo over Anavar and Winstrol for a woman?
Yeah, now the Dave Palumbo Experience app is an app that I have, for your iPhone or Android. You can go to the App Store, download it. It's $29 a month. Not everyone has the money for coaching, and that's, for $29 you get access to every article I've written, all my videos, plus I answer everyone's questions on there. The best ones I take, and I do a Q&A video exclusively for the app members every week, plus all the questions that are asked and answered are put up in a forum there so everyone can see them. So you might not have any questions, but maybe the people who are asking questions you'll be able to relate to. And we just started recently putting up a workout every week. So there's a new workout that you guys can follow along with. And I think this, once again, it's a great resource for people. Now, the question at hand was, what was it?
Negative effects of Primo over Anavar for a woman.
Anavar is the same. Assuming the Anavar is real, and I highly advise that you test the Anavar with these Roy test kits that I sell at DavePalumbo.com. Assuming it's real, Anavar is the safest thing for women to use. It's virtually side effect free. It doesn't have much of an androgenic component at all. It's almost zero. It's purely anabolic. Now, granted, every time you remove androgenic component from a steroid, you reduce the anabolic effect, but Anavar is pretty much pared down to have no androgenic and only anabolic. It's probably one of the weaker steroids, but it's side effect free for women, and that's why I usually advise women to use that. Once you get into that next tier, which is the Primobolan and Winstrol tier, you're getting the potential to get some side effects. They're still low, especially if you keep the dosage low, 50 milligrams a week, 25 to 50 milligrams a week of Primobolan, and 10 milligrams per day of Winstrol. You should be pretty side effect free in that zone. Problem is, most of the Primobolan on the market is fake, and it's usually, unfortunately, rather than putting nothing in there, they put test propionate in there. And anyway, as you know, testosterone in a woman's body, not good, and you're going to get a lot of side effects from that. So Primobolan, I would test it with the Roy test. If it's good, you can use 25 to 50 milligrams, injectable per week. Winstrol, if it's good, 10 milligrams per week, 10 milligrams per day for the women, and you're gonna get more growth from it. But once again, if you're sensitive, you could get side effects a little bit. You could get some more hair growth. Some people could get a little bit of deepening of the voice, possibly some acne. Everyone responds differently. But if you're looking to be side effect free, essentially, stick with Anavar. 10 to 30 milligrams, 10 to 20 milligrams a day for women is usually adequate.
Next question again from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Dave, on the men's plan in the app, you have some suggested grams per pound of protein, carbs, and fats. As far as macros for women, what do you suggest? I know protein and fats come first. Is 1 gram protein and 50 grams fats per pound of body weight sound right to start with?
It sounds like a lot of fat. I don't know about that. I usually go 1 to 1.25 grams of protein per pound for women. So let's say a woman weighs 120 pounds. Usually 150 grams of protein is adequate to grow. Usually for dieting, I might take it down to 120. I might take it down to 1 gram per pound, just so they're not getting extra calories. As far as fat content is concerned, I like to do 0.5 gram per pound. So she's 120 pounds, try to get 60 grams of fat divided over 5 meals. That's probably the best way to go, I would think. Sometimes you need a little more, a little less. That's dependent on the person's metabolism, and you can tweak that relatively easily, depending on what their goals are. For contest prep or weight loss, I usually don't give women any carbs. I usually do ketogenic with them. It usually works really well. They feel good on that diet. Off season, I will give them some carbs. Once again, I don't go excessive with them. I might do 25 grams a meal, times, maybe do 3 or 4 carb meals. So I might do 100 to 125 grams of carbs per day. Once again, that's dependent on how fast their metabolism is. I always focus on protein and then a little bit and moderate fat first. Once that's consumed, the carbs are kind of the icing on the cake. They're the fuel source. That's all they are. And for every person, they have different fuel requirements, obviously.
Let's go to our Instagram questions. If you're not following us on Instagram, the handle is official_RxMuscle. Let's go to Banyanats Ivan with a loaded question. Dave, do you think Phil Heath will compete this year? And then he goes on to ask what he needs to change in order to beat Shawn Rhoden. So I'll preface this with this as well, Dave. I don't know if you saw, but Body Power UK was this past weekend. Phil Heath was there. There were quite a lot of people that spoke to him. They all have their individual accounts, and there's a strong belief that he is going to compete, but he's going to do it on a very short prep. So I don't know, first of all, if you've heard anything coming out of the Body Power Expo, and then second, do you think he's going to compete? And then B, what he needs to change in order to get, I guess, his title back.
Shawn Ray doesn't think he's going to compete. I asked him that yesterday on the show. He doesn't think he will. I think he will because I've talked to some people in higher up places, and I know Phil has been expressing interest in competing, and that he wanted to basically maybe do a trial run on his own to see how he looked. I think Phil is itching to get that title back. I think he sees vulnerability in Shawn Rhoden after this past weekend. To be honest with you, if Phil just worked on controlling his midsection, just doing abdominal breathing exercises, practicing his posing a lot, really holding that gut in, I think if he didn't change anything and if he looked just like last year, I think he'd win. I think he can win the title back. That's assuming Shawn was the same. However, if Phil can come back all he wants. If he doesn't fix the problem, everyone's going to key in on that problem. And they're going to say, well, it's just as bad as last year or it's worse. When you get surgery on an area, okay, there's residual swelling that's going to go on there for months and months and months. So, Shawn Ray's, feeling was that, maybe he needs to take the whole year off and then come back fresh in 2020 rather than push it and maybe wind up having to get another surgery. So I don't think his midsection issue is going away. I think all he can do at this point is control it. Now, I know in my career toward the end, I was having the midsection problem too, and what I did was I worked really, really hard on just controlling it in my poses, and that seemed to do it enough for me to actually raise my placings up. So he's not fixing the abdominal thing, because what happens is as you get older, that skin stretches out, the connective tissue stretches out. It's not going back. They can sew it together all they want. It's not going back to what it was 5 years ago. So he has to just work on that stage presentation and control of his midsection. If he does that, I think he can win the title back.
1987 Anthony, weaker body parts, more volume, more intensity, or more rest recovery instead?
For weak genetic body parts, I always say train less, higher intensity, less volume. So in other words, if a body part is weak, giving it more volume is the worst thing you can do, because it usually means that it can't recover properly, okay? So you want to give it less volume. Now, if you're giving it less volume, what's going to make it grow? More intensity. That means full range of motion. That means heavy weights with a lot of rest between those sets so that you can ensure that you're going to lift the heaviest weights with good control and form. Control that negative. Get that full range of motion down, and then let the body part rest. If you're working it more frequently thinking you're going to get it bigger, you're probably doing the wrong thing, because it's not. We know that the body part is having trouble recovering to begin with. If you're giving it a high intensity workout with lower volume and you're doing it with full range of motion, give your body more rest. When I wanted to really bring my arms up, I split biceps and triceps onto their own days. I did biceps and forearms one day, and I did triceps on the next day with some calves, and that was it. And I gave them a full 8 days between workouts to recover. So I was doing it rather than a 7-day split, I was doing an 8-day split. And I was getting 2 days off completely per week, but my arms were getting their own day, so I was prioritizing them, and I was doing less volume, more intensity.
Let's go to Alicia M. Dave, I hate your show so much. I take triple the amount of fiber lines just so I can remind myself how crappy this show is. My question is, it's a good one.
Yeah.
What do you think of Ben Pakulski's style cyclical bulking, eating massive amounts of carbs to stimulate growth, then returning to a keto-style diet to keep the fat off? Before you answer the question, we do get a lot of questions about Ben Pakulski, so I think we'll reach out to him, see if we can get him on a future episode of Guru Talk.
Yeah, I've had Ben on before. I like Ben because he's an intellectual and he really kind of looks at things. Look, I might not agree with everything he says, and I'm sure he doesn't agree with everything I say, but I like the fact that he at least takes a scientific approach to what he's doing, and he tries to, come up with theories of his own and then test them out. And I'm sure he's thrown out things that didn't work, and he's taken in new things and tried new things. I'm the same way. So that I don't mind that. I don't think that his approach necessarily won't work. I think it probably does work. Does it need to be, that radical? Probably not, but I think people like radical things, and he's also very good at marketing himself. And part of getting people to join your cult, so to speak, or drink the Kool-Aid, as they say, is to create something that's interesting and that people might say, oh, I want to do that. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to do that to get results. It just means that it might seem enticing to them. I mean, let's look at CrossFit. CrossFit is the most ridiculous sport of all time, right? But it's fun. People do it because it's fun, because it's challenging. But it leaves you very prone to accidents, okay, injury, because it's very ballistic moving, and you're doing very heavy weights, and it doesn't make sense. It's like just random exercises put together. But once again, someone created enough hype behind it that people do it. So I don't think there's anything wrong with what Ben's doing, and it probably will work, just like anything works if there's a strategy behind it. Is it necessary? Probably not.
Go to BobbyX35. Dave, best site injection oils on the market and why there's so many out there. I don't even know what's even safe to use.
Yeah, well, there's only 2 products actually on the market of the site injection oils that actually have any science behind them. A good science-based site injection oil does 2 things. It volumizes the muscle first. And that's what a lot of even the fake ones do out there, because you're putting oil into the muscle, right? So you're going to volumize the muscle, fill it up. But the ones that actually have science behind them, okay, and have glycoproteins in there and enzymes and stuff like that, those actually have a positive partitioning or nutrient partitioning effect on the cell. They actually create new muscle tissue long term. So when you use them long term, you're hyperfeeding the cell, and the muscle cells grow in that localized area. Chris Clark was the first person to create a product that did that, and that's the synthesized pump and pose product that he originated. That was the first product. I've been selling that product for Chris probably now for over 25 years. It's a great product. It works very effectively. I used it throughout my career. I had very genetically weak arms, and at my peak, I was probably about 22.5 inches, my arms. So the stuff works. And they didn't look fake, okay? So if you do it right. And the great thing is that, even though I don't really, I have hardly trained because of my shoulder replacements, everything like that, and I'm just getting back into it, my arms still have decent size on them. So a lot of those gains were permanent. The other great product in the market my good friend Steve DeLuca makes is called Painless Pumps. It basically took the technology of Chris Clark and it added a component, okay, electrolyte balance, that enables you to use the stuff but not get sore afterwards. The Chris Clark product tends to cause a prostaglandin reaction, which is part of the inflammatory response, but it does leave you a little sore. Some people don't like that. The Painless Pumps kind of stepped in. They have 2 generations, Gen 2 and Gen 3. The Gen 3 is a little stronger, also a little more expensive. Once again, I sell all these products on my site because they work. There is an imposter out there. There's a guy out in California, it's called Painless Pumps West. I guess he got into an argument with Steve DeLuca at Painless Pumps, and he's making a fake version of the Painless Pumps. He's putting it in a plastic bottle. He's calling it Painless Pumps, and then a little print that says West. That is not legitimate. It's not a real product. It doesn't have the science in there. It's just an oil, hopefully a sterile oil at that. So I would certainly avoid that product at all costs. It's not the real thing. It doesn't come from Steve DeLuca. It's not a true Painless Pumps product. He's just copying the name, and for whatever reason, they got some kind of battle going on. I would avoid any counterfeits, at all costs, because you don't know if it's sterile, and it certainly doesn't have the technology that the Painless Pumps or the Chris Clark has in it. Having said that, if it's used and applied correctly, the product is awesome. If it's abused and not used correctly, it'll look silly. And if you don't use enough of it, it won't do much of anything. So I give out a protocol. If you guys email me at huge285@AOL.com, I can send you the protocol of how I recommend using it so that it works without looking stupid, but yet it's effective.
Let's go to Enislav. Your thoughts on saunas to lose water weight?
The whole water weight thing drives me crazy. Water weight is not body fat. Sitting in a sauna the last 2-3 weeks before a show is not going to help you burn more body fat. Dehydrating yourself is not going to help you burn more body fat. If anything, it's going to put the muscle into a catabolic state or a state of breakdown, because muscles like to be well hydrated. When they're well hydrated, they recover faster and they become anabolic. When they're dehydrated, that goes for people who take herbal diuretics all the time. If you walk around dehydrated, you're going to have a headache, which is basically a hangover caused by dehydration in the brain, And the cells of your muscles are going to be dehydrated, which is going to put them in a catabolic state and leave you much more likely to lose muscle. It will do nothing for fat loss, okay? Also, insulin in your body does not work well in a dehydrated state. What does that mean? That means it can't drive nutrients into the cells properly. And if your blood sugars start to run a little high because your insulin is not working adequately, your body is going to crank out extra insulin to try to compensate for that. Extra insulin causes fat gains or inhibits fat loss. So being dehydrated, it will actually prevent you from burning body fat. So you want to stay well hydrated. You never use diuretics, okay, or anything that's going to dehydrate you like a sauna, ever, unless it's the last day before a show and you either got to make weight or you got to just pull a little extra water the last minute out of you.
Let's go to Aaron 19. How much volume do you prefer for width exercises versus thickness exercises? For example, rows for thickness and pull downs for width. It seems most people do more thickening exercises rather than width exercises.
The truth is you can't isolate one or the other. When you row a weight back, whether it be from up here or from here, you're working your lats, okay? As Dorian Yates pointed out, the closer, if you have a closer to shoulder grip width, whether you're here or here, that's going to make you the strongest. And if you're stronger, you're going to activate more muscle fibers and you're going to grow more. Okay. Granted, there are certain movements that will target certain parts of the lats, okay, more. Like if you grab a dumbbell and you pull low to your body, you're going to work the lower lats more. If you're pulling up high like this, you're going to work more of the upper lats and traps, which a lot of people don't realize the traps are not part of your shoulders, they're part of your back musculature. Matter of fact, they make up probably 35 to 40% of your back musculature. So can you isolate a width and rowing exercise? Not really, but it seems like the pull-ups and pull-downs tend to bring out width a little more. Holding your hands wider, however, is not going to make you have more width. It'll just make you weaker when you pull down. So take that for a grain of salt. That means what you want to do is you want to use a variety of different back exercises. I always say pick 4 exercises every time you go to the gym and do them. Usually I do either a pull down, or I would do a pull up or assisted pull up, a bent over row, a one arm row, and usually a machine row. That's how I used to break my back down. And then every other week I would throw deadlifts in there, okay, to really intensify the lower back musculature, the traps. Because let's face it, deadlifts off the floor or off a rack will build traps, they'll build those spinal erectors on the lockout, and they just make you generally stronger, which is obviously helpful to building the back. And that's how you break down your back exercise. Try to change them around every time you do it. I always used to try to switch at least one exercise each time I trained back.
Let's go to Reamers or Rhymers. How to boost insulin sensitivity the best and keep it optimal?
You know, a lot of guys, you know, or girls prior to a show will find that if they switch out their red meat and their chicken for fish, okay, especially like the higher fat fishes, they tend to lose weight better because fish increases insulin sensitivity because of the omega-3 fats in there. One of the best ways to increase insulin sensitivity so that you produce less insulin, but it does the same job. In other words, insulin's job is to lower blood sugar. If you produce less insulin doing the same job because you have better sensitivity, you're less likely to store fat, you'll mobilize fat much more easily. As we know, omega-3 fats increase insulin sensitivity. Also, palmitoleic acid, which is an omega-7 fat, increases insulin sensitivity tremendously. That's why I put the palmitoleic acid in my omega-lyse formula from Species Nutrition. So you get the 3 grams of fish oil in there, you get the palmitoleic acid in there, and then of course you get evening primrose oil. And all those the omega-3s and the omega-7s increase insulin sensitivity tremendously, probably the most potently. So you don't even need to eat the fish, you can get it in the supplement form. But also if you substitute fish in addition to that and try to take out your red meats and your chickens, okay, because maybe you need to lose weight a little faster and you want to increase your insulin sensitivity, that's the way to do it, for sure. There's nothing more potent than that. You could also add in like monounsaturated fats tend to help a little bit, like your macadamia oil, your extra virgin olive oil. Once again, these essential fatty acids really are very instrumental in increasing insulin sensitivity in the body. Now, there's other things that help, what we call glucose disposal agents, that help drive nutrients into the cells. Once again, if you lower blood sugar, you reduce your insulin needs, you know, like your vanadyl sulfates or your, some of the other, your cinnamon makes you a little more insulin sensitive, chromium if you're deficient in that. But more than likely, the best way to go about it is fish and the fish oils.
Let's go to Shoal Aesthetics. Dave, I know you had went over your off-day nutrition protocol, mostly keeping the same amount of calories since your body's recovering. However, do you recommend manipulating your training day calories from carbs to fats, or at least decreasing the carbs but making up the calories and added fats on an off day from training?
What I usually do is, especially in the off season, I usually give people a pre and post workout shake. Usually it's like a whey isolate with like a high molecular weight carbohydrate. Pre-workout, sometimes I'll throw a tablespoon of macadamia oil in there just to kind of slow the absorption down a little bit. So, on off days, you don't really need the pre and post workout shake because you're not working out. So you can eat regular meals there. Some people who have like a slower metabolism, I'll take the post-workout shake and just get rid of it, and the pre-workout shake I'll replace with a food meal. So yeah, there's no reason to be pounding fast-acting carbs and huge amounts of protein in a shake form if you're not training. You don't really, your requirements are a little lower. But once again, you don't want to lower your protein intake for the day because you're still recovering and building muscle on the off days. And so what I usually have people do, once again, you can stick with the shake if you want for convenience, but you can change the shake. Sometimes what I'll do is instead of giving them a fast-acting carb with the protein, I'll do the whey isolate with, say, all-natural peanut butter or macadamia nut oil, and I'll mix that in so I'm not eating as many carbs, but we're still getting the protein and fat.
Willie feels legitimate HGH is too expensive for most. MK677 is supposedly the next best thing at a much more affordable price. Any truth to this?
It's certainly more affordable. Is it as effective? Not even close. It's like saying, well, a Honda is a car and it's a lot cheaper than, a Ferrari, and it goes almost as fast as the Ferrari. But it's so much cheaper. Well, if you're looking for maximum performance, obviously the Ferrari is going to blow away the Honda. There's no way around it. Yeah, it's still a car. Okay, just like the MK66 is still it still does cause your body to release some GH. Is it significant? Is it significant enough to build muscle and cause fat loss? I would say no. Okay. What I do like, sometimes these GH releasers do increase appetite, which is kind of good off-season wise. But as far as for effect, you're not going to get anything close to taking real GH. Now, if you're just looking for any type of boost at all, sure, you're going to get a little bit from it, and everyone responds differently to these GH releasing peptides. Some people respond really well to them, other people not so well. When I say really well, you're still not close to what you get from taking real GH, but you might get a little bit of a boost from it. Back in the day, when they first started releasing growth hormones, some people were resistant to the synthetic growth hormones, and they found that when they produced sermorelin for the first time, which was the first GH releasing peptide that was sold by prescription, they got responses to this because they were responsive to their own GH, but not to the synthetically made GH. So in very rare circumstances, some people will respond better to the releasers than the actual GH itself, but that's a rare occurrence.
Let's go to Poppy Rico. Dave, I know you've found that 1200 mg test and 600 mg anabolic a week is the best dosage for optimal muscle growth with the least side effects. What should happen if one were to take only TRT dosage for normal function and do the 600 mg anabolic? And would you use two anabolic compounds like EQ and DECA, or just Tren or DECA alone for best result?
See, everyone always tries to recreate the wheel. Now, the question started out reasonable. Okay, what if I take my TRT and then I just take an anabolic with it? How would it work? You'd probably get less testosterone-based side effects because you're only taking, 250 milligrams of testosterone a week. Now you're looking to put two anabolics in, thinking that, well, two anabolics plus the testosterone that three compounds will kind of be the same as if I took the testosterone with the other thing, but I'll get less side effects. Not true. Once you start building more and more and more and stacking more and more compounds, you're going to get more and more side effects, especially when you start adding DECA on top of this. Now you're looking at DECA, induced side effects, which could be high prolactin levels. My advice to you, to everyone out there, is if you're looking to maximize gains, nothing builds muscle better than testosterone, okay? The side effects are minimal. The worst side effects of testosterone, I'll tell you from my own experience, was gynecomastia. It drove me crazy. I hated it. Because I had glands naturally as a kid, and then, nothing bulbous, but once I took my first shot of testosterone, they blew up. Hated it. Once I got my gyno out, I never worried about testosterone again, because that's the one side effect that drives everyone crazy, okay? So getting that out of the equation, and if you're looking to be a professional or top level bodybuilder, competitive bodybuilder, you got to get the gynecomastia removed. That's why I send everyone to Dr. Blau. He's the best. He does 1 million of them. He's in White Plains, New York. You got to suck it up. You spend a few $1,000s. You get it out. You never have to worry about it again. Then you can take your testosterone and your anabolic and get maximum effect. Don't try to find a way around it. There's no shortcut. It's like the person who has a leaking roof, and they're trying to patch it up rather than spend the money to get the roof repaired the right way. Get a new roof. Once you get the new roof and you put the right materials on it, you're never gonna have a leak again. That's the bottom line. That's the best way to go about it. Taking 14 different anabolics, okay, to try to avoid taking testosterone is stupid, because no matter how many anabolics you get, you're never gonna get the growth and thickening effect that you get from testosterone. Why? Because testosterone is the best muscle building compound out there. That's why your body naturally produces it.
Let's go to Caper Inc. Is eating rice throughout a prep the best way to go for carbs? Oats and beans make me bloat, and beans give me water retention and the runs.
You answered your own question. You know what works for your body. You know what doesn't make you feel good. You know what does make you feel good. If rice is digested and utilized well by your body, then that's what you should stick to. And I know I help a female bodybuilder. Rice bothers her stomach, but she loves potatoes. They work great for her. They don't bother her stomach. They don't bloat her. So we eat potatoes. Some people love the taste of oatmeal, but when they eat the oatmeal, they get bloated and they just don't feel good on it. Okay. You got to find what works for you and what your body tolerates best. For me, it was McDonald's French fries, and I grew great from those. So I ate a lot of McDonald's French fries with burgers. Okay? If it bothered, when I ate the burgers initially, I used to get indigestion all the time, and I realized it wasn't the burgers, it was the pickle and the onions on it. So I told them, when I go to McDonald's, I'm like, no pickles and no onions. And when I did that, all of a sudden, I found the magic growth formula for myself. So everyone is different. The next guy can eat McDonald's and they can turn into a fat slob from it. So that's not the right foods for them. So you got to find out what works for yourself and stick to that.
Last question from Squirrel Builder. Dave, we all know that there are hundreds of different workout programs, high volume, SST, yada, 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 low volume, heavy weights for hypertrophy. What do you normally do for your clients? For example, he puts in, for example, combine them, the different workout programs out there. What did you do back in the day? So did you follow any sort of protocol as far as training went, and what do you advise for your clients?
Yeah, I found that for myself, less volume, higher intensity, heavy weights work best for me. When I work with clients, I give them the program that I feel works best, but I tell them with the proviso, I think there's a lot of workouts that work very well. Everyone's body responds differently. Some people like higher volume. Some people like lower volume with more weights, which is what I advocate. I think people with fast metabolisms who are hard gainers respond better to less volume and heavier weights with higher intensity. I think people who tend to put muscle on easy can grow with anything they do. And those people tend to get fat easily. So they seem to do better with higher volume because it burns more calories in them. So you got to see what works for you. You know, when people always ask me, hey Dave, look at this workout someone gave me, what do you think about it? Unless it's a kooky workout and just very, whacked out, I usually say, you know what, give it a shot. Try it for a couple weeks, see how it works on you. I'm not against it. Now, if you're gonna lift light weights and do 25 reps per set, 25 reps per set, I'm gonna tell you that's not the right way to grow. No one's growing with that. Maybe Ronnie Coleman, but even he's not gonna grow. Look at the weights Ronnie was lifting. Crazy weights. He did higher volume, but he did heavy weights too. Now, most people couldn't do both because they wouldn't be able to recover properly. He was a genetic freak. In my experience, heavy weights, low volume is the best way to grow. I agree with Dorian Yates 100%. I agree with Mike Menser. They went a little extreme, but they did, they kept reducing the sets down to very, very, down to 1 or 2 sets. I think that's too extreme. Once again, I don't believe that the highly extreme type things work. It's usually in the middle. It's usually the middle ground that works. But I do believe in lower volume heavyweight.
That's going to do for this episode of Ask Dave. Again, brought to you by Species Nutrition, Cuts, Training, and Fitness, as well as Liquid Sun Rays. For our producer, Tyler Shore and Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.